You're on.
A very good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to you wherever you're joining from. This is the pre-webinar for the Africa Food Systems Forum, the AFSF, and we're so delighted to have you with us. My name is Anela Simon. I will be your moderator today. I'm aware that a lot of colleagues from all over the continent are in the process of joining. So please come in, make yourself comfortable, get some water. We're going to begin in exactly 2 minutes just to allow everybody else to catch up. I believe the chat is open, so you may already start making use of the chat box to make your introductions. Tell us where you're joining from, tell us your name, and what you're excited to hear today. Good afternoon. If you're just joining us, we're giving colleagues from all over the continent another 1 minute to join the webinar. In the meantime, you can already make use of the chat box to introduce yourself, tell us where you're joining from, and we're beginning in exactly 1 minute. If your colleagues are supposed to be here and you think they might have forgotten, please do give them a nudge. Okay, and greetings once again. My name is Anela Simon, and I am going to be your moderator today. I am the Acting Secretary General at the AFCFTA Youth Advisory Council. Many of you might know it as ICOYACA. Agra and Ikoyaka are so happy to have everybody join this pre-summit webinar, and we have a fire session for you. Please feel free to make use of the chat box, make use of the Q&A if it's active, and also please remember that towards the end of the session or after a few of our speakers, we're going to open up the floor so that we can hear from you because that is why we are here. We want to hear from you what you think about AFSF, what you think about all of the presentations you would have heard today. So, just some housekeeping. Please, when it is your turn, you can just put up your hand if you'd like to make submissions once the Q&A is open to the floor. One of my colleagues will unmute you. Let's also remember to be respectful to one another, to each other's organizations, to each other's countries. Try not to interrupt anybody. And also, please don't be shy. If you don't want to speak or if you are somewhere noisy, feel free to use the chat box. Before we get into the program today, I can see that some people in the chat are already saying their hellos. And it's very good to see that everybody is coming from all over the continent. I have seen Mr. Cactus Pascal from Tanzanian National Chamber of Commerce. I have seen Najat Hamid from Ghana. Greetings to you. There is Dr. Leonard Mizi, who is co-chair of the GDPRD and Technical Services Women's Group on Youth in Brussels. Welcome to you. So please do use the chat box. Use it as a way for you to network as we are getting into the session, but also use it to make your own remarks, or you can keep your remarks for when we open up the Q&A. So that is it for the housekeeping. We're going to get into the program now. If at any point I'm speaking too fast, it's because I'm excited. So also nudge me in the chat box. And we're going to begin with the welcoming and framing of this webinar's purpose. I'm going to welcome Mr. Nega Wubene, who's Head of Markets and Trade at AGRA. And he's going to give us also the opening remarks on AGRA's Youth and Trade agenda and what are AGRA's priorities under inclusive markets, under trade, and the finance program. So, Mr. Nega, please, when you are ready, come through and you can unmute. Over to you.
All right. Thank you, moderator, and thank you very much, everyone. So good afternoon, colleagues, partners, and distinguished guests, and most importantly, the young traders and entrepreneurs who are joining this from across the continent. On behalf of AGRA, I'm pleased to welcome you to this Youth and Trade pre-event webinar, convened together with the Independent Continental Youth Advisory Council on FCFTA. And thank you for making the time to be part of this conversation. And thank you especially to our youth traders, trade associations, partners, and colleagues who are helping to build this momentum toward the Youth in Trade side event during the 2026 Africa Food System Forum, which is going to be in Kigali, Rwanda. So we are meeting today because Africa's young people are not waiting to be invited into trade. They are already trading, but they are moving produce, they are producing, processing foods, imports, textile services, ideas across the borders. They are connecting markets, creating business opportunities, supporting households, and keeping the regional commerce alive in ways that are often not fully visible in formal statistics. And across the continent, informal, small-scale, cross-border trade remains, a major source of livelihood, and women and young people are at the center of that reality. But while this is true, our young people and women are also facing a number of challenges. They are trading against the grain of a system that were not designed with them in mind. A young trader may have the ambition, the product, and the market demand, but they still face, enormous challenges in terms of border delays, non-tariff trade barriers, limited market information, uh, access to finance, which is probably the biggest challenge, and weak participation in trade associations, and very little voice in the policy space where decisions are made, where these decisions also affect them. So for larger exporters, some of these barriers are costly. For youth-led small and medium enterprises, they can be really quite detrimental. Now, this is a gap this initiative is trying to address. The Youth in Trade agenda is not simply about celebrating the participation of youth in trade. It's about making youth participation more structured, more visible, better supported, and better connected to continental opportunities under the FCFTA and to transformation of Africa's agri-food system. It's also about ensuring that young traders are not only discussed as beneficiaries, but engaged as market actors, entrepreneurs, problem solvers, and policy stakeholders. This is why this partnership that we have launched between AGRA and this entity is really important. AGRA brings its convening platform, its trade and food system agenda, and commitment to inclusive markets. I think it's called Ikoyaka, brings direct reach into youth networks across the continent. And just importantly, the credibility that comes from being rooted in the lived experience of young people engaged in trade. Together, I think we can reach beyond the usual rooms and the usual invitations. Today's webinar has very practical purpose. First, we want to introduce and frame the Youth in Trade side event that will take place on 1st of September in Kigali during the Africa Food System Forum. And secondly, we want to hear from youth traders who participated in the 2025 the Dakar Youth Trade Conference, what they experienced, what changed for them, what remained difficult, and what lessons we should carry forward. And thirdly, we want to also have an open conversation with those joining online today, so that the questions, the priorities, and expectations of the wider group of young traders can help shape the discussion in Kigali. I want to underline one point. The Kigali side event should not be seen as a standalone meeting. It's part of a broader journey. The 2026 Africa Food System Forum is convening under the theme of investing in Africa's agri-food systems, nourishing nations, growing jobs, and building resilience. Trade is central to their ambition. If African food systems are to nourish nations, markets must work better across borders. If they are to grow jobs, young people must be able to participate in those markets, not only as labor, but as entrepreneurs, as business owners. If they are to build resilience, regional trade must become more predictable, more inclusive, and more responsive to the realities of small and emerging enterprise. For us at AGRA, this is closely aligned with our work on market and trade. We can't speak about transforming food systems without speaking how farmers, processors, traders, aggregators, transporters, and consumers are connected. We cannot speak about regional trade value chains without asking who is able to enter them, who is being excluded, and what practical support is needed to move from informal survival to structured growth. And we cannot speak about youth employment without recognizing that many young people are already creating their own employment through trade, often in difficult conditions. The value of today's sessions is therefore will be measured not only by the presentations we hear, but by the clarity we generate together. What are the barriers that most urgently need attention? What kind of finance, information, networks, policy support would make the biggest difference? What should youth traders expect from Kigali event? And how do we ensure that engagement continues beyond FSF through platforms such as Generation Africa and Ikoyaka's country chapters? So my invitation to all the participants to engage openly and practically. If you are a youth trader, bring your experience into the room. If you are a policymaker or development partner, listen for the operational details behind the big themes. If you are part of the Trade Association of Youth Network, help us think about mobilization, representation, and follow-through. The success of this agenda will depend on whether it reflects the real constraints and opportunities young people traders face every day. So let me close by thanking Ekoyaka for the partnership, thanking our speakers and youth traders for lending their voices to this important conversation, and thank each of you for joining us, and also for the organizing team, Barbara and other colleagues. I hope today's discussion will not only inform you about the Kigali side event, but also encourage you to see it as a platform that belongs to young traders themselves. Africa's youth are not simply the future of trade, they are already shaping trade today. Our task is to ensure that systems, institutions, and investments around them catch up with that reality. With that, I will conclude my remark. Thank you very much. Wish you a very fruitful deliberation. Thank you. Back to you, moderator.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nega. If we can please have a round of applause. That was very, very good. And I've made some really good notes. I was trying to not write down everything Mr. Nega was saying because it was really hitting home and also resonating with why we are having this webinar to begin with. And you've said some very important things that I hope that throughout the webinar, and especially when we open the Q&A, which is where we want to hear from you, that you remember in the back of your mind that we're going to probably see a running thread with what Mr. Nega said and what other speakers might say. For example, that women and youth represent a majority of traders on the continent. However, the systems are not built or designed for us. And so how can the continent work when the systems are not built for the majority? He also said that there is a gap between initiatives that we are trying to address, whether through policy or meetings like this. So what can we as young people and as young women bring out from this? And the credibility that is rooted in your lived experiences. It's not enough for us to sit behind offices and desks and write about it from textbooks or meetings. But the people with the lived experiences and the actual knowledge, that really all comes from you, which is why every single one of you being here is important. And you might think, well, I'm not a farmer. I'm not somebody who's providing logistics. I'm not somebody who's running a business. At the very least, you are a consumer. And everything that is being done in Africa through trade, African food systems, you, the consumer, at the end of the day, you are still part of that chain. I also like that we said that trade requires predictability, but also inclusivity. And so it's really important, again, that we hear from you and we hear your voice. We might not all be able to make it to the AFSF, but this is part of that inclusivity that we want, that we heard from people in the webinar who gave us really good insights from their lived experiences, from their academic experiences, from the policy side, and so forth. I could go on, but I think as we go through to the rest of the speakers as well, we will echo some of these. I can see that it's buzzing in the chat, so please keep that alive. Tag people that you know, do say hi to each other as well. And with that, we're going to go ahead now to our next speaker. Actually, I'm going to introduce them as a group. We'll call them our next speakers. But first, I'm going to start with Mr. Sunil Dahia, who is from AGRA, who will be presenting the next segment. In this next segment, I think it's also important because we're going to hear firstly from some of more of AGRA's work, but also we're going to hear from other young people just like yourselves and their actual lived experiences from the AFSF last year. So who is the next speaker, Mr. Sunil Dahia? Mr. Sunil is a senior programs officer working with AGRA in inclusive markets. You're going to hear that word inclusive a lot. And he has more than 23 years of experience in international development and has dedicated his work really to rural economic empowerment across underdeveloped nations all over the continent. Currently, his work is really focusing on ECOWAS and the ECOWAS framework, so West Africa, looking at cross-border trade associations that represent the people who are trading across the borders, also working on trade facilitation platforms, trying to reduce non-tariff barriers. If you don't know what a non-tariff barrier is, don't be shy. I do challenge you to put it in the chat and maybe we can unpack it after Mr. Sunil speaks or during Mr. Sunil's speech, actually. He can tell us what is it that he does to reduce non-tariff barriers and what they are for those of us who might not know the term. So first I'm going to invite Mr. Sunil, and then Mr. Sunil, I think I will allow you to introduce the two youth from ECOWAS who are joining and giving us their lived experiences. So over to you.
Thank you, Simone. I hope I'm audible, and good afternoon, everyone joining across the continent. I'm really excited from Accra here in West Africa today to be part of this wonderfully organized webinar where basically we're going to benefit from sharing our experiences, being Agra, being as well as our partners in West Africa, cross-border trader associations, and even individual private traders that are also on the webinar today. So before I introducing the next section of the webinar, where we are bringing a very much a real-time experiences to be shared by our two bright and young traders from the region, so that they can share their experiences. So let me give you a bit of a picture behind their stories from the Agra perspective, and being in this region for quite some time. So we here in the region been partnered with the WACTAF, which is basically a very young, dynamic cross-border trader association run by young people, guided by experienced hands spanning across 17 countries in West Africa. We have been partnered with them 2 years ago under our MasterCard Foundation YEFA program, which is very deliberate to support young women and in general young traders that are engaged across the region. So our focus with this initiative is to to support small scale traders, mainly women who are moving their agriculture goods across these borders, and most of the time these borders are actually landlocked countries that we are interacting. And with that, I'm happy to report, as we stand at pretty much maturity of our initiative. With that, we have facilitated quite significant volumes of trade, almost going to 10,000 tons of food that has moved across the borders, in a very, I would say, a joint effort of these individual traders who are moving small volumes, but when you put them together, it really making a dent as an impact. Also, this represents these volumes represent significant value, nearly $2 million in terms of trade that has happened across this border. That is done by nearly 9,000 traders, and in terms of jobs created and opportunities that are created for young people and women, over 3,500 till date. So basically, we are not moving goods. We are enabling livelihoods at a scale. So at Agra, we have invested largely in this initiative in two things. One is we call Road Fluidity Operation, which is basically a mobile app that replaced the previous informal WhatsApp complaint platform that was used by WACTAF and their numerous traders. This new application is more basically advanced and still very much accessible at a user level. It has features such as voice notes, where traders who are not very comfortable writing, lodging their complaints in written, they can use that feature, and also escalate those issues straight to the customer officials. So it is not a one-way platform, it is a two-way platform, where basically issues are raised and they reaches to the right people who are mandated to support this free trade across the region. And the second thing that we have invested in, which is Trade Information and Border Assistance Desk, in short, border information centers that are staffed by our partner WACTAF officials at a very strategic borders, where a trader declares goods on a very one simple form, crosses without harassment, and pays only the legitimate fees that he's supposed to pay, he or she's supposed to pay. So, and then they benefit also from a free movement sticker that is issued by WACTAF on their vehicles, giving a very clear signal to officials that they are registered, vetted, and entitled to a fair treatment. So this all looks good. However, still we have undocumented unregistered traders, particularly women and youth, trying to do the trade transaction across these borders. They are often seen as the first victims of these harassments, illicit payments across these checkpoints. Now, it is not a one-time problem. What we have learned here, it is a daily routine, a reality of these traders. So, and I will be upfront that this is not a one-time fix that we can call it, because the reality is on the ground, officials changes, new checkpoints are emerged, enforcement of the schemes like ECOWAS Trade Liberalization Scheme (ETLS) remains sometimes uneven and sometimes not very much recognized at some border points. And this is basically is ongoing work, not a problem that we have solved and closed. But yes, we have significant impact made. Let me also leave you very quickly a very impactful success story of a woman trader known as Mama Popo from Benin, and she's trading regionally across the regional countries that connect with Benin. And she moves her horticulture products like tomatoes, onions, and so on. She has benefited from the services I mentioned about this initiative, where we have invested. She is able to now, do her trade transaction repeatedly without much of a hassle. And we have monitored the progress of that particular trader. Her capacity has increased up to 20%, and her cost of doing the business, doing the trade has reduced up to 30%. And simply by using this, by benefiting from the support of this initiative, the Road Fluidity app, carrying the free movement sticker, after, of course, going through the very rigid criteria, and able to be vetted by WACTF. And she understands now, on top of everything, she understands now her rights under the ECOWAS Trade Liberalization Scheme. And that was the ultimate objective of this initiative. So this 30%, which sounds as a cost reduction and 20% in time reduction, roughly means nearly $150,000 in additional annual income for one trader like that. So it sounds small, but it is really impacting in economic terms very positively. And now multiplying that across the thousands of moving goods across this same corridor with the traders that we are trying to support. And we expect WACTF to continue, this initiative to continue even beyond our support. So, and this is why exactly this webinar like today matters a lot. So that these kind of stories can be replicated and multiplied. I think Anil spoke about the last year, September, we have convened a youth trade stakeholder conference in Senegal ahead of our AFS forum, where basically over 100 participants, largely from 14 countries, the traders attended, and basically they have about 16 of them, made their way to the forum itself, where they were sitting next to the likes of Senegalese, Nigerians, agriculture ministers in the bilateral meetings. And today's webinar basically, and the side event that we're trying to organize at the Kigali, we are building, this momentum, and it is about widening that circle even further. So that brings me to our two speakers today, who are basically coming from trade community, and they will bring their experiences that they have lived on the ground while doing the trade transaction. So Miss Christabel Mensah will be joining from Ghana, and she's an agriculture trader herself, active in cross-border movement of agriculture commodity across West Africa. She's also serves as a woman and youth leader for WACTF Ghana. And then she will be joined by her colleague from Nigeria, Mr. Aliu Isa. He is also a very active young trader. He is a president of a regional observatory of onion in West Africa and Central Africa, and also Nigeria's National Onion Producers, Processors and Marketers Association. He's also managing director of eHarvest Plus Continental Nigeria, working across onion value chain and doing the trade. So between them, they show what this work ultimately is about, giving young and women traders a real seat at the table, not just the tools and the support. So with that, I will hand over to Anele and also bring in Ms. Christabel and Aliyu to share their guidance and their experiences directly. Thank you very much.
Very, very, very exciting. Thank you so much, Mr. Sunil. And again, I just want to summarize some of the things that made my mind totally blow up. And I'm also interested to hear from the audience, especially those of you who are in ECOWAS region, who are in West Africa, because I did see a lot of you introducing yourselves. How many of you are actually aware of some of the tools that Mr. Sunil spoke about? I think my favorite thing that I highlighted and that I'm probably going to post on my LinkedIn and my WhatsApp is that we are not moving goods, we're enabling livelihoods, which is so important because nobody is really trading because for the sake of trading or because it's fun, except for me. I am a trade lawyer because it's fun. But other people are doing this because it's their livelihoods, it's their passion, it's their way to give back to the community, and also their way to send children to school and realize dreams. So it's much bigger than that. And it was so good to also hear Agra's institutional view. And now we can see what trade looks up, what it looks like from the ground up, from the work that's being done, from the lives that are being changed. Now, the moment where it made me stop was when Mr. Sunil was talking about the new ECOWAS application that replaces the WhatsApp model, and you can even send voice notes. You can even send voice notes. Imagine what that means. I have my friend Fatawu who's here, and he's from Ghana. He's a trader and he represents youth and disabled communities. So imagine being able that not only it helps those of us who are busy and on the go. I don't want to type the whole message. Maybe I'm not comfortable in how literate I am in writing or in the language I'm being asked to write, but also maybe I just don't have accessibility and therefore I can send voice notes. I know there's other cross-border trade associations here, and we are looking forward to hear from you as well what some of your tools are, and also how we can peer review and peer learn from each other's tools, because these are things that I think I'm in SADC and I would love that if we could have that. Also wonderful to hear about Mama Kobo from Benin, whose capacity reduced by 20%. Sorry, the cost reduced by 20%, but increased capacity by cost reduced by 30%, increased capacity by 20. And that just for me speaks to exactly the work that we do at Ikoyaka too, which is firstly, people need to be aware of the solutions that are there. And once you've created the awareness, then we move on to the capacity building, making sure that people understand their rights, they understand their tools, and then also making sure that you as businesses are prepared to take up these new offers and these new tools. So I'm very excited, obviously, about this conversation. I'm going to bring in Christabel and Aliyu, who are both youth traders. And it's so good that we get to hear lived experiences from them. And they get to tell us, what was your experience at the last AFSF? I think I'll begin with you, Christabel. If you're able to unmute yourself for us, how was your experience? What did you learn? What did you love? What did you not like as much? And please be as open as possible.
Oh, okay. So hi. I'm glad to be given this opportunity to share my experience from last year's event. So with what I really liked about it was, I think it was my first time visiting Senegal too. So it was nice to be in a new environment. The venue for that place too was quite captivating, along with their cultural things they did there. So with the conference to the forum, I had the opportunity to go to quite different ones, conferences regarding this, young people pitching for their businesses or their agricultural products. There was also some, showcasing the did of some materials they had. And then also, I think one of the things I really, really liked was every country had like their open forum. So I had the opportunity to meet some key stakeholders in our agricultural sector in Ghana. So I also made or acquainted myself with quite a lot of people from different countries. So that alone has actually helped me out from the last year till date because we all still keep in touch, help each other out where we can. Like Mr. Lee, for instance, we are still in communication. So sometimes when he comes into Ghana, if he needs help here and there regarding these things, I'm able to help him out. If I need any input or intake regarding something elsewhere, I'm also able to do that. So finding myself among very young people who are very, very dedicated to the agricultural sectors in their countries, it was very, very captivating. And then I got to realize that it wasn't just regarding the goods only. We had others in the logistics part, even others were the ones that had especially to do with the fertilizers, the natural way. It was very, I learned a lot because I was just maybe inclined to just a little bit of knowledge, but then now it became widened the more.
Thank you
So
so much.
what I'd like
Yes.
to add is that for participants who would be able to go this year, I
Mhm.
just hope that they are able to network properly. I just hope they are not going to keep in their shells, but actually talk to others, find out what they are also experiencing, where they are, and understand each other better. Because the trading isn't just locally amongst us, but across
Mhm.
borders within ourselves too. Then the exhibition booths, visiting them also really helps you, exchanging contacts and still following up after the event. It's also very, very helpful. So
Mhm.
personally, it has really helped me. It's really increased my confidence to with engaging with, people that are quite experienced in the agricultural sector. And it's also gave me some inspiration to participate in more continental initiatives.
Okay, thank you so much, Cristobal, for letting us know your experiences last year and the fact that it was your first time and you came away
Mm,
with so many different experiences. I'm
thank
now going
you.
to ask your newfound colleague and friend, Mr. Aliyu,
Okay.
if you can please tell us what was your experience at the AFSF in Dakar, Senegal last year? Same question as I asked Cristobal. Did you like it? What did you like, etc.?
Oh my God. Okay, thank you very much. I hope you can hear me.
We
As
can.
rightly stated, my name is Aliyu M. Issa. I'm the president of the onion industry in Nigeria, an industry with a total value of about 1.17 trillion in Nigerian currency, which is Naira, and also leading the West African onion industry, trying to facilitate a better exchange of onion between countries of production and countries of consumption, trying to ensure free movement of this commodity from this country of production, which is mostly Nigeria, Niger Republic, countries like Benin Republic, Togo, Cote d'Ivoire, Burkina, also to Burkina Faso as well. Dakar 2025 youth to meet with different people with a wealth of experience that are ready to contribute towards the liberalization of goods and services across the continent. And I really learned a lot. Before then, I used to see some of the challenge that we are facing as an individual challenge or organizational challenge. But after that conference, I start seeing that challenge, that problem as an ecosystem problem, as a regional problem, as a continental problem that everybody from all other sectors are also feeling what I'm also feeling. But I thought before then that the problem is only peculiar to the onion industry. But I learned that the tomatoes are also facing the livestock and every other person. So in that conference, we did a lot of presentation, and we listened also to a lot of presentation from GIZ to ECOWAS agricultural trade. And we meet in different groups with the president of Ghana, for example. Mahama was there. The Minister of Agriculture in Nigeria was also there, and the Minister of Agriculture of Senegal, and we also met him personally. And from that place, we decided to say that we must approach this problem with a kind of an holistic solution. And why can't we leverage on the already trade protocols that is on ground? That is the ECOWAS trade liberalization scheme, the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, and just leverage on it and ensure that we reduce this multiple extortion of our exporters from one country to the other, this exorbitant transit levy. Then around January 2026, I was able to write a letter to the Controller General of Nigeria Customs Service, Mr. B. Adeni, who is also the chairman of the World Customs Organization. And he knew the responsibility on his shoulder to make sure that there is trade facilitation, not across the continent of Africa, but throughout the world, being him the chairman. I wrote that letter to him, and he granted us audience. I invited all my youth traders and exporters from across the West African sub-region, and we went to Abuja and met him. And we were so lucky that the Controller General now granted a simple platform in which we are going to work with. So what we are doing now, if I load my onion from Nigeria, or somebody load his onion from Niger, we have a single document, a single form, in which we are going to provide all the details of our products, the details of our business, the details of the origin, the destination, and we pay a token, not what it used to be that every checkpoint, when you sum it up, it's I think we spent almost like around 2.5 million naira if we're exporting onion from Nigeria to Ghana. But because of this intervention of the Controller General of the Nigeria Customs Service and the Office of the National Security Advisor, we're able to reduce this, I think, to 200, and from Nigerian side, 218,000 naira from that million that you spent, because you just pay. And again, the youth that were involved in the business, we said, no, we are not going to displace them out of the business. We need to do it with them. So we bring them in, we build their capacity, and we now said, oh, they should continue to do what they are doing. But this time around, it's not that business as usual. It's there is a new sheriff in town. Use this done, pay this money directly to the government accounts. And then when you pay into the government account, then your goods will leave freely out of Nigeria. Any security officer that stops you, try to show him that document duly signed by the federal government. And I can tell you, we are really enjoying our trade very well. A lot is happening, and there is a kind of unity of purpose amongst the youth from Niger Republic to Nigerian to Benin Republic, Togo, and even Ghana. And I think within the space of this year, I have traveled to Ghana almost 6 to 7 times. And each time I'm going, I will call Christabel to assist me with one thing or the other. And again, I was also in Benin Republic. There was a guy I also met during the conference. His name is Majid. He's also from WhatsApp. And I don't speak French. I don't speak French, unfortunately. I went to Benin Republic to institutionalize. I have to invite him. He came. He do the interpretation. He knows everything about what WhatsApp is doing, what the onion industry is doing. It was so easy to communicate to the people of Benin Republic. And in Benin, everything is really going fine, courtesy of the conference in Dakar. And we are also making good money too. We are making good money as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It is so good to hear. I mean, Christabel, from attending the AFSF last year, she unlocked networking, collaboration, new partnerships. She spoke about the exhibition booths. We have some good news about exhibitions. I'm not even sure if I'm allowed to share, but maybe later at this year's AFSF, because there'll be exhibitions again. And I loved that, Christabel, you said you were inspired. With Aliyu, I'm also so happy that, you mentioned also that because of ETLS and knowing your rights under the ETLS scheme, you were able to trade better. And also, so too, this is what we want under the AFCFTA, under the tripartite STR. And again, the cross-border traders associations and some of the rec leaders are also here. So when we open the discussion, would like to see how many people know their rights and know their benefits under those schemes. And then lastly, I'm always happy when young people take the initiative, and you wrote that letter and now you're actually able to see the results and better trade. But just so that we don't keep everything, so we keep everything still realistic, I'd like to know from Christabel and from Aliyu, now that you've been to AFSF, is your trade life perfect, or are there still some issues that you're experiencing that you believe can still be changed, and that maybe through policy and more advocacy, we can do better? I'm going to start with Christabel. Christabel, do you believe that there are still some things that can be done better, that we still need to do better? And what are you currently experiencing right now that is maybe making you not feel so comfortable to trade across borders?
Okay, so one of the challenges that we have faced so far has got to do with security. So I think earlier this year we had the issue where some of our tomato traders went to Burkina Faso and then they ended up being killed. So as at that time it happened, there was a sense of fear. Is going outside to trade in tomatoes worth losing my life over? So that's one of the challenges we are really facing. Going there, losing our lives, being attacked on the road, armed robbers. It's not Burkina Faso only, but then across the borders, is it really worth losing our lives over that? So when it comes to that, that's the very, very key thing that I would want to be looked at. Because most of these traders too are women. We just have a few men on the road as drivers. What at all can the woman do to protect or save herself? So the incident that happened earlier this year really, really caused a sense of fear and panic amongst them. And so that's what we are hoping for, that something can be looked at and kept for us. So that when we are going outside to trade, we go with at least some comfort, knowing that we are going and we'll come back home to our family and keep on trading.
Thank you, Christabel. And that is really, when you think of the worst, that is really the worst outcome scenario,
Yeah.
the worst case scenario. And it's not something that we would want to even think is still happening in 2026. I know that through working with a lot of young people, you guys who trade every day and who work with cross-border trade associations, sometimes you have the solution or you have half the solution, or you have an idea of what the solution could look like. And with the problem of insecurity and instability, what have you thought maybe should be done? If it was up to you, if you had to speak to the presidents today, what would you say you think should be done, that can be done today or can be done at least next month, to make sure it's safer for us to trade across the borders?
Okay, personally, I think that there should be some collaboration and communication between our security services, especially the ones across the borders. So if, let's say, I'm moving from Ghana, the people at the border of Ghana, the immigration service have done their part. But when it extends and goes into the other country, what is the other security service also doing for us? So if they should be able to communicate, okay, maybe when we come in, at least if there's a security officer assigned to do those checks with them, or maybe a local that can assure or help them in securing their safety. Because sometimes, though, I think the language barrier also comes inside, So if at least there's a local or a security service that someone can help guide them, I think it would really help keep all these situations. And also, I think in scenarios like this too, sometimes an armed robber coming, it can never be predicted. But if at least they know the way that area is, giving a heads up to our people and guiding them would actually be of very, very great help.
Thank you so much. Very good. Thank you very much for that, and also for sharing your views on how it can be worked on. And I think when we open the Q&A, I'd also like to hear from everybody else. What do you think should be done in the case of armed robbery, instability, no safety for women, young people at the border? Mr. Aliyu, same question for you. A lot of things have changed. You're also saving a lot of money now, which is good. We like it. More money, better life. But what are some of the things that you think still need to happen? What still needs to change that can be, helped from a policy side, from an advocacy side, and things like that?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think a lot need to be changed. A lot in the case of we need to harmonize our trade policy within the ECOWAS sub region. For me, I don't see the justification whereby, like for instance, a product originated from Nigeria, for example, and Nigerian is collecting only 0.5% of a next levy, of a levy. But a transiting country, like for instance, Benin Republic, is collecting different kinds of levy on a goods that is only transiting the country, and the destination is another country. It's collecting even more than the originating country. I think we need to harmonize our trade law. We need to respect our interstate transit agreements, and so that because at the end of the day, this cost on these goods and services is going to be borne by the consumer. The consumer at the other end doesn't need to suffer this kind of expensive to buy these goods will now be more expensive than what it used to be as a result of a multiple taxation or multiple extortion from different countries. So I think a lot needs to be done on that aspect. Harmonization of our trade laws within the ECOWAS sub-region. The essence of ECOWAS is for economic integrations, free movement of goods and persons across the member states. That is one. Secondly, we also have this issue of payment settlement system within the continent, within the sub-region. Like, for example, there is this Pan-African payment settlement system. But even now, as I'm speaking to you, that payment system is not integrated with some of the trade portals of different countries within the Africa. When you go to Niger Republic, when you go to Nigeria, when you go to Ghana, you don't see the PAP system being integrated in the trade portal of the government. That today, if you want to export onion, the way when you go to currency of repatriation, you will see dollar, you will see euro, you will see pounds. I expect us to see the Pan-African payment system, where when you log into it, maybe you will see the Ghana CD, the Nigerian Naira, the this thing CFA. You don't see those currency in the trade portal. So, and with that, you cannot continue your documentation, because you cannot choose any currency within the Pan-African payment settlement system. I think we need to make advocacy on this, that Pan-African payment settlement system need to be integrated in the trade portal of the ECOWAS members country, or the countries within the African continent. And the last problem, the last challenges that we are facing is this issue of restriction, trade restriction within within Africa, where a lot of restriction is going on. Like for me, I have a case study with Ghana. Ghana are trying to restrict Nigerian and Niger Republic from supplying onion to Ghana, which I know this is what they are trying to do is inconsistent with the ECOWAS trade protocol, is inconsistent with African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. But moreover, it's not the Ghana government that is trying to do this, but some people within the onion association. And that has really that is really causing a trade disruption between Nigeria, Niger, and other ECOWAS countries. I think we need to advocate on free trade, on free trade, on trade liberalization, on fluidity, on free movement of goods and person within the region. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, both of you. Those were very, very, very good. I'm going to start from at the end, because I think what you've just said is really surprising, that while the governments are doing the work to open up international trade, whether it's ECOWAS or the EAC or COMESA or SADC, we are still facing the issue of local people who are not playing by those rules. So all the work that is being done to ensure that we can access more markets, maybe they're not informed, or they're just being protectionist because they don't want the competition. But that's still another hurdle that you as a trader have to face when you go to a new market. And then on PAPS, I think that's a very good idea, that PAPS should be integrated into all the trade portals. Although PAPS is not currently live in every country, and if you don't know what PAPS is, we can ask again in the Q&A, but it's the Pan-African Payments and Settlement System. And if you want to know which banks are already participating, or if your country is participating, and if in your country your bank is one of the banks, you can always Google PAPS, PAPSS, live banks. Every few months or so, they release sort of a PDF with all the live banks. I know that I'm still waiting for Southern African live banks. Only Zimbabwe is really participating in Zambia, but we're always checking. But it's not enough that we have PAPS integrated into the trade portals that people are using. I really, really liked that. And then that the trade policy within ECOWAS, a common market with many different levies and a lot of fragmentation. I thought that was amazing. Thank you so much to everybody during this segment. Please let's give them a round of applause, show them some hearts, some rockets. Very brave of you to actually really share with us your true reflection of what you are going through. So I think, and I haven't gotten permission, so I don't know if I will get into trouble, but it is what it is. I do see that Mr. Daniel Njua has joined us. Mr. Daniel Njua is a part of AGRA, and I can see he's on the panel. And he is the director at AGRA for Inclusive Markets and Trade, as well as with the finance program. So I don't know if Mr. Njiwa, you are in a position to say hello, just a quick hi, and then we move on to the next segment. I'm completely putting him on the spot, by the way. Okay, I'm not sure if he is able to unmute. Okay, as we're putting him on the spot, I think he will let us know in a little bit. I see George's hand is up. George, please go ahead.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Sorry, I'm very close to the airport because I've been here for the past 3 weeks at the AAI, Accra International Airport, to get my goods cleared. I'm going to be brief. I liaised with an exporter from Tanzania to get ginger into the country, Ghana, and it was a bit cumbersome, but then we were able to have ourselves understood. Though the region is dominated by Swahili, at least I was able to fine tune myself with the processes in the country and got an exporter sign up. Very rapid, and even took less than 3 weeks. And yet, goods that had been exported through Tanzania Airline to get here, for me to undertake a project of bringing goods such as ginger, fresh ginger, within a short period of time from there to Ghana, had hit the rock. In fact, I can't see in the limelight of that project. And my only sin is that I'm using after. I'm banking my luck, or let me say my prospect, on the after initiative, after framework initiative, that my goods will come here being an agricultural goods and can go through the process without paying duty at least. Because this is a farm produce. And yet the after certificate of origin which came along with the goods was downplayed, both the clearing agency and that of the custom offices itself. And this is ongoing in Ghana, where at a point in time I was even told by the GRA that my ginger is not in the list of exemption to be approved. It's just so sad. It's just so sad that we have had all these years being encouraged to join after, to do things under after. Other countries are collaborating, yet my own country, the bedrock of this initiative, of this idea, cannot simply just inculcate the process and the harmony and the impacts not being felt by the businesses. And I don't know what the noise is about. It is just so sad. It's like the biggest scam on the continent so far, I can tell. The biggest scam on the continent is that we Africans feel we can trade among ourselves, and we're putting up an initiative, and we ourselves are killing it without implementing it. I don't know where we're going to go. What idea we really have? The earlier presenter, I mean, the earlier person from Nigeria, my brother from Nigeria, who really talked a lot about the European system. Why our leaders really schooled with them? They put up systems that we cannot do. Why?
Thank you, George. I'm going to stop you right there. I really love your impassioned feedback, but I thought somehow you jumped the queue. Very smart of you. And this is exactly why we are having this session. And in the following session, which will be presented by Mr. Emalot Allen David, I think he will touch on some of these things. And I want us to understand something about AFCFTA. Firstly, I think the biggest that we can do, the best we can do for ourselves under AFCFTA as cross-border traders, as consumers, as people in academia, is that we first have to truly understand the knowledge. And I don't mean assume the knowledge, guys. We must understand the knowledge, all of it. And that is exactly why AGRA and Ikoyaka are partnering to exactly do this, to make sure that this information is available and that any misinformation that can lead to the sort of frustration that we're seeing from George can actually be moved away. Because sometimes you find that as traders, there is some misinformation which is growing from assumption, and it can cause us a lot of frustration. And then in the meantime, it can make our people to not trade. This is under AFCFTA or even under the regional economic blocks. But because George was so impassioned, and I know that Emilat is next, I will answer your question, George, when we open the Q&A. I have a very practical answer for you as to what has happened, and I think we can all of us learn from it, and I think it will surprise you. But for now, I'm going to invite the Ikoyaka chairperson, Emilat Ellen David. Emilat is going to be talking to us about the perspectives on the Youth in Trade Charter. The Youth in Trade Charter. I know you might have heard about the African Youth Charter, which turns 20 this year, by the way, but I don't think you would have heard about the Youth in Trade Charter. So I invite my chairperson, Emilat, to take us through that and to tell us a little bit more. I encourage you all to listen very keenly because this is work that is being done for you, with you, and also with partnership, collaboration with you. So feel free to ask him a lot of questions or write down a lot of questions, and we're all going to throw it at him. Emilat, welcome, and please go ahead.
Thank you. And thank you, Anele and team. I know I may not have a lot of time, but hopefully in the shortest time possible, I will try to share some thoughts around what we are developing with AGRA. You could just confirm if you see my screen. Do you see my screen?
It is loading. Okay, now we can see your presentation. You may go ahead.
Okay. Thank you so much, colleagues and comrades for joining us for this interesting webinar as we build up to the big event, the AFSF forum in Kigali. And just as Anelia said, and I'm glad that our youth speakers have shared quite a bit of challenges, and also the passionate George raising a few issues to do with the challenges he's facing to have his goods cleared. So what we are working on, AGRA in partnership with Ikoyaka, and thanks so much to AGRA for this visionary project and initiative that we are co-developing, is the Youth in Trade Charter. And the Youth in Trade Charter is really an interesting one. And why? So far, we are into the 5-6 years of the AFCFTA implementation. As of 2024, we had the Protocol of Women and Youth in Trade launched and adopted by the heads of state, and there are subsequent, of course, protocols under the agreement. And one thing, unfortunately, is glaring clear that the AFCFTA is unfortunately only binding to member states. But the member states don't trade. The people who trade here are actually the young people, the women and the youth who eventually every day go across the borders. But there is no guiding instrument that shapes or informs the associations on how to support, on how to ensure that these rights that our member states have assented to are actually enjoyed by the youth themselves. So AGRA's visionary leadership eventually decided, let's have a Youth in Trade Charter. If I may say, this is the first ever Youth in Trade Charter that is being developed in the continent. There was a pilot a couple of years ago by the World Bank, but only to COMESA and not really covering as much. So AGRA thought why not take it to the continent and see that through the Youth in Trade Charter, we deal with the people who are enabling our youth traders to actually move across the border. And that's how we get into the Youth in Trade Charter. And one thing probably I also want to mention, that Youth in Trade, this charter here is really voluntary for our associations to be able to adopt. If you're either in a cooperative association, for as long as you're in any arrangement that supports you to trade across the border, this charter is for your entity to voluntarily adopt and see to it that your rights are covered, that you get to enjoy the Protocol of Women and Youth in Trade we are talking about, you get to enjoy the broader AFCFTA agreement benefits that we keep talking about. And of course, and George, if you are part of an association or not, this charter eventually, when it's fully done, it will be for you to actually also use as kind of leeway to also task your associations or your institutions to support you to enjoy the rights within the trade. So maybe what is it and what is it going to cover? And so far, we've been having, in the last couple of weeks, we've been talking to various young people, various associations all over the continent to get to see what should this charter look like, what should it cover. And some of the key issues, the pillars that we are talking about that have been able to come out of this consultation so far. Number one, we are talking about protection from harassment. Our youth in trade want to see that the grievances they face across the border, there should be safety channels for them to be able to report. The barriers that are existing within the border crossing should be something that their associations should be able to front and help them solve. Especially, we've had horrifying stories in our consultations from our cross-border young women who talk about I can't even begin talking about them now, but very grotesque situations and experiences. One of them actually told us that when she faced harassment on the border, she took about 3 months to get back to the trading. And this is something that we eventually want to address with the charter. The other two, of course, is formalization. You may know that many young people would want to formalize their business, but they don't know how. And yet we have these associations that are existing to protect their rights, to also educate them on how to move through the process. And they don't know. Late again, you find our young people are trading in these regions where there are already existing STRs or simplified trade regimes, but they even don't know how to benefit from this. And so one of the things they have also asked us to do, that let the charter speak about formalization, that associations should be able to guide us in the process of formalizing, but also the process of taking advantage of our existing STRs within our own recs. The other, of course, is access to finance, which I think is the biggest. Everywhere we go, every region that we talk to, they also mention this issue as the biggest barrier that they are facing to, number one, be able to increase their production. Number two, the AFCFTA demands you to actually up the quality of your product. But as a cross-border trader, you can't do that when you don't have finances. And here we are also suggesting, as a way of committing associations, to connecting our traders to real financial products that can help them get out of the financial trap they are in, to actually either up their production or increase the quality of the product, and to also eventually be able to export in large volumes. Not only informing them, but rather connecting them. Associations can inform you that, hey, there is this grant. For example, Generation Africa was doing the campaign that has been existing for, I think, a couple of months. The finalists, I think, will be mentioned in the AFSF forum. Beyond informing them, you should be able to connect them and take them through the application process to actually be able to get this funding. I was talking about the go-getters that Generation Africa is doing. The other, of course, is, access to information. One of, I think, the biggest, among the biggest barriers that we have also been able to get, and we are trying to see that the charter also addresses, is the access to information. Which the associations, we want to commit the association to providing this information for our cross-border traders. And of course, second, lastly, is participation. It's very important. And what we are doing with this consultation that we have been ongoing, and also the charter development process, is involve cross-border youth themselves, those who are trading across the border. So within the charter, we also want to commit cross-border associations to to capacitate, to have these young people in the room when these discussions of STRs are happening, when the negotiations are happening. Their representatives should be in one of the decision-making tables. And it's also something we want to also address with this charter. And very lastly is capacity building. And I know what George was also mentioning is also a capacity building challenge, that you need to also be able to know how far the modalities of operations of the AFCFTA itself, that not every product is within the AFCFTA system. Some goods are liberalized, some are not. So this also comes in, this is also what we are mentioning in the charter, that the association should voluntarily also be able to capacitate our young people and also see how they can operate these trade hubs. So these barriers really are issues raised by our young people, and they should be able to be supported in the process. And we see the charter as this one instrument that is going to aid this process. So as I conclude, why does this matter? 70 to 80%, as you already may know, of informal cross-border trade are mainly women. But the increasing number in that 70 to 80% are young people. Young people are fastly growing. So if we don't have systems, we don't have mechanisms that protect them, it becomes very costly, because again, the extortion they face in the border makes exporting triple harder for them. The extortion, this, and what I say is actually the evidence we've been able to gather in these consultation processes. Most of them are complaining of being multiple checks, and in each check, they ask them for money, which makes trading very, very hard for them. And so we want to see that as the AFCFTA is running, the people who are supporting these young people to trade also have a guiding framework that shows them on how best to take advantage of the AFCFTA and the rec level opportunities. And lastly, very lastly on this, Nele, I know you'll forgive me, is that our charter is not really replacing the existing regional economic blocks regimes, whether it's COMESA or SADC or ECOWAS. We are working, the charter is working within these regimes. And we have a principle within the charter that we are going to include, that where there is either duplication or conflict, the association or the cooperative is guided to work within their rec level arrangements. So we are not replacing an existing instrument, but we really want to work with these existing instruments. So that is it, comrades. And very lastly, we have the consultation is still going on. Please, I know my colleagues are on the chat. Please share your thoughts on the Google Doc. Let us capture your thoughts also in the process so that you participate.
Thank you so much, Emilat. Thank you so much, Emilat and Team Ikayaka. We definitely look forward to the charter. I know that there will be a youth validation, which will invite youth all across the continent to sit on the webinar, to see the final charter, make comments on it. Again, at the AFSF forum, there will be a roundtable where it will be launched and more comments will be taken. So no decisions about youth without the youth. We're now going to open up the Q&A segment. We want to hear from you. Remember, and I'm going to reiterate or repeat the rules from earlier. Keep it short, to the point. We are almost out of time and we want to hear from so many of you. And also make sure that you say your name, your country, or your city where you're from. Quickly say, are you a cross-border trader? Are you in academia, in the policy space, or are you cross-border trade association, policy, anything, consumer, but just so we know. And then you get to your question very quickly. I will definitely cut you off. I think I called first dibs because I wanted to quickly touch on something that I think a lot of us are also struggling with, but I'm not going to go in depth. Just for George, who I believe is trading in ginger, please use the tools that the AFCFTA has for us. On this tool, you can always put what country you are exporting from, the country you want to export from, and you can see these are all types of ginger products, and then it will tell you the rate per year. So the rate, as you can see, it's declining every year. And this is what we mean when we say that the AFCFTA is a gradual liberalization of the tariff. It is not that people have to believe that for every product it's zero right now. So George, I've pulled up Tanzania for you, and you can see that even Now in 2026, it's around 10, but it will only drop by 2030 to 0. And I know that a lot of us have that question, and I wanted to just quickly bring it on. Please do raise your hand, or you can put your question in the chat. I'll monitor the chat. You can direct your question to the whole panel, and one of the moderators will bring you up. Looking forward to hear from you. Okay, I see one hand. I will take 2 questions and then put it back to the panel and then so forth. So I have one hand. So while Mr. Pascal asks his question, another person can also come up. Please, Mr. Pascal, go ahead.
Thank you, Ms. Yanele. Am I audible?
Yes, you are very clear.
Well, thank you so much. My name is Castor C. Pascal. I work for the Tanzania National Chamber of Commerce, that's the TNCC, as the head of youth and enterprises development. So the Tanzania National Chamber of Commerce is a private sector organization, represent business community, and what we do basically is to facilitate and support youth and women in cross-border traders. But specifically, we are working closely with the CBTA, the cross-border trade associations across different borders of Tanzania, to be able to facilitate them in terms of mentorship, in terms of finance, in terms of trade information, simplified trade regimes, arrangements or frameworks available for them for across different countries. So as the Chamber of Commerce, basically a lot of speakers here have highlighted of the different tools. We also thank AGRA and Ikoyaka for bringing up this kind of platform for large private sector players to engage with the youth and the traders across the continent, but also designing different tools like the safety tools. Those enables or influence youth women to efficiently participating in cross-border trading. But again, on the case on the part of the Tanzania National Chamber of Commerce, we have developed a Tanzania Chamber portal, which is TCP in short form. So this portal is basically a trading facilitation portal because it ensures we issue certificate of origin, one of the important documents to cross the border, especially for the consignments which are above 2,000 United States dollar. But again, this tool, the Tanzania Chamber portal, we have designated a specific section.
I'm gonna have to cut you short, Mr. Pascal. I'm so sorry. I'll allow you to land, but we don't have enough time. We have only 9 minutes left.
Thank you. Thank you.
I will allow you to land and just close off your points, and then I will take the next question. Okay, I believe he has already been let down. The next question, I believe, from what I can see on my screen, moderators, I see Mochoso Justin. So please go ahead, Mochoso Justin.
Okay, this is Comlan Messi. I'm the Regional Executive Director of WAFSOP, West African Civil Society Forum, which covers all the 15 countries of West Africa, a civil society umbrella body working with the ECOWAS. And I'm also a consultant in trade-related issues in technology and management. My question and also comment is about the level of ratification of the AFCT CFTA around the continent. It is important that we continue advocacy on that to make it really effective and also to bring that political will into effect. The other point is about the technology barrier, meaning about the mobile. When you go to a country to another country, you have to have many SIM cards. This level of advocacy, we need to bring that to on the table as well, because those are non-tariff barriers as well. The currency, we don't have a single currency, or the currency is very difficult to trade around the continent, in the continent, and the passport level. So those are elements while we are dealing with all these non-tariff barrier things, we need to bring that also on the table, into attention, on the light. So we continue this advocacy work and making sure that we have results forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And thank you for keeping that brief. Absolutely agreed with the SIM cards as well, that you have to get a new SIM card everywhere. Otherwise, the eSIMs can also be very expensive. From the chat, one of the questions says, what are the key barriers? I'm going to direct this to Mr. Dahia. What are the key barriers that prevent youth from participating in cross-border trade? And what are the practical solutions to alleviating this? And this question is from Jean Bernard, who wants to know what are the key barriers that prevent people from really participating?
So, it's an interesting question, I must say, because this can be, the response to this question can be differ from a geographical location to another, and country to country, in terms of where the trade, how the trade is done. But I'll try to respond to it in a more generic fashion, particularly in the context of West Africa. So in terms of the major, I think, barrier is for the youth is the information about the trade opportunities, that are available. That is something I think we don't have, for example, a platform that easily demonstrate across these countries in the region here, where people can log in and check the trading opportunities that are available. Somebody sitting in the Niger looking for a buyer of their potatoes that they're producing, in a heavy volumes. Similarly, in Nigeria, who's producing millet, looking for a buyer. So that kind of platform, which provides information, the real-time information about the trade opportunity, that is one. That is one of the kind of a challenge. One uniform platform which basically demonstrate that kind of information, I see. But when it comes to actually, when the opportunity is pinpointed and you want to exploit that opportunity, the list of challenges can again differ from one thing, which is how well you are informed about your rights as a trader, about incentives that are available. We spoke about ETLS scheme, and how well you are, your product is listed or registered within that. And in terms of documentation, how well you are documented, I think this is what can make a big difference. The more organized you go, the more documented you go through those channels, I believe the quantity, the number of barriers can be significantly reduced. I'm sounding very positive. In still, some of the speakers spoke about some real-time challenges. Particularly, I think the issue of harassment to the women, that is something I have witnessed also whenever I have traveled. The ladies, the traders who are moving goods on their head, they often victimized by those kind of harassment. I think for that there must be something, a sort of a helpline or some sort of support that could help those people to to report those kind of things. And sometimes visibility, we all are humans, and the more visibility of those kind of actions that can be put in a form of visible posters or something on those borders that demonstrate that this is something should be discouraged. Remember the time of COVID. Just to conclude, when COVID hit the continent, the one thing that was seen everywhere, that you should use the mask, you should wash your hands, you should keep the distance. It widespread. So why it cannot be something like that campaign about trade? So if you want to do a trade, if you're a custom officer, how you should behave. If you are a trader, how you should show off, show up at the border. because it goes even for a normal traveler. If you try to travel without a visa, you will not be given an entry to that country. So that kind of things, I think, in terms of barriers, and in a way, I try to also share some potential solutions that could be seen. But again, information is the key. The more information our young people are provided, I think it will sort out. Let me take a stop here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I do believe we're closing, but I know that there was a hand from Tato who has been waiting. So Tato, if you can just quickly get to your question. All the questions in the chat asking how to attend the AFSF summit. We are sharing the link to the summit so that you can register and find out all the requirements there. Tato, please keep it to the point. You may go ahead.
No, thank you, ma'am. Good afternoon, everyone here from South Africa. Tato Mazumadibo, co-founder and vice chairman of the African Minds for Applied Research Institute. Straight to the question. How do we move young African agricultural producers from selling commodities at the farm gate to capturing greater value across the supply chain while ensuring that fiscal burden by states of enabling this transition remains sustainable for emerging market governments? Apologies, I'm speaking from a policy perspective. That is where I come from, and as an economist. And similarly, in the emerging need for macadamia nuts. Macadamia nuts is becoming quite a big sector. I hope you can answer the question. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I will invite anyone in the panel. So basically, he's asking, how do we move from trading from farm gate to more export ready across the continent? A quick 1 minute answer. I will also at the same time invite Ms. Barbara Mbabazi from AGRA, who will do our closing for us. Barbara is a specialist in youth in markets and trade with AGRA, and she's doing phenomenal work to make sure that there's more young people inclusion in trade in the conversations as well. So Barbara, please get ready to come on, and also you might also want to answer that question.
Good afternoon, and thanks, Anele. Before we do the closing, I'll let Nega speak something about that question on macadamia and exporting. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And then I'll do the
Mr.
closing.
Nega, please come through.
Yeah, thank you, everyone, and thank you for that interesting question. This is actually a question all of us are really struggling with. A lot of youth programs aimed at creating work opportunities for young people are having difficulty, especially in Agra. We have a big MasterCard Foundation funded program focused on youth and women. So the big challenge we are facing is actually going beyond farm level, engaging young people in off-farm work opportunities in aggregation, value addition, transportation, logistics, and also consumer-faced trading. The biggest problem here is actually, access to finance issues. While on-farm employment can be improved through training and capacity building, and also access to input markets, the work opportunities beyond the farm gate required really a lot of capital and also network and connections, which is very difficult for young people to penetrate because these networks, especially in the traditional value chains, are already established. So a young entrepreneur coming with little experience, little capital, will have really challenging, getting into this network. Some of the literatures that are coming recently suggest for the youth to go into non-traditional, value chains such as horticulture, which create much more opportunities than maize, soybean, coffee, or other, commodities in agriculture. So for us, we are trying to work with banks with governments, with multilateral institutions to create, access to finance opportunities for young people. De-risking loans to young people, to medium and small enterprises, and also trying to create a more enabling environment, and also reduce some of the onerous requirements in terms of documentation and time required for young people, to get permits to move commodities across borders. Sunil, I believe, also mentioned the simplified trade regimes that we're trying to facilitate by exempting young people from normal requirements across borders to a maximum of, pre-agreed value of commodities, in many cases to $3,000. So these things are happening, but the question remains a valid one. We've not conclusively answered, but something we need to work on. Thank you. Over.
Thank you very, very much. I believe we are now going to bring in Ms. Barbara Mbabazi to go ahead and give us the call to action for this webinar, which I see part of what she wants to say has also been asked repeatedly in the chat. So Ms. Mbabazi, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anele. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, our participants. Thanks to the youth cross-border traders and other youth entrepreneurs who have joined us today. It's been a very insightful webinar. We thank you for the energy that you have brought to this webinar, and we thank all the organizers. So the youth in trade charter is something that's very important for us, and that's going to be one of the things that we are carrying forward to the AFSF, and all of you are invited for you to participate to be at the forum. We've shared the link, the registration link. Go to the AFSF website. Then you'll see the registration link at a small fee. Those who are in Kigali, you will not need any extra logistics, and those in neighboring countries and all over the continent, it will be a worthwhile investment. At the AFSF, there's going to be the Youth Dome, that's specifically for the youth, for networking, for all the different sessions where you'll meet investors. We have the youth market where youth who have products will be given an opportunity to market their products. So it's going to be a great week for networking, for being part of important conversations, because we really want youth voices to be heard in these discussions, in policies, in decision makings. So you're welcome, and we hope to see you there. We will continue our conversation on the Youth in Trade Charter at the AFSF, and we will do a launch there. See you all there, and thanks very much. Thanks, and over.
Thank you so much, Barbara. Thank you to every one of you. I am going to clap for everyone. I know we could not get to all of the questions. Time really flies when you're having fun. But do follow AGRA on socials, follow Generation Africa on socials, follow the AFSF forum on socials, and follow Ikoyaka on socials, and keep this conversation going. Until next time, goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.